Ken Carson recently dropped his fourth studio album, More Chaos, and with him now being affiliated with the Atlanta gang Homicide and in an active beef with former collaborator Yeat, it's clear Ken had some shots he wanted to send out on this project. So here is every disc on Ken Carson's More Chaos. Ken opened up the album with the song Lord of Chaos, where Ken establishes himself as this orchestrator of chaos, due to his style of music and crazy live performances. And on this track, Ken would also send some shots at a popular underground rapper. As he would say, he was flexing that watch too hard and he got that little Patek took, suggesting someone was showing off their Patrick Fipe watch, so he stole it from them, referencing the 2023 Boxfest incident, where Ken's Opium label mates Homicide gang gone to an onstage brawl with Louisiana rapper Summers. Pretty much a 20-to-1 against him that started out of nowhere, leading to them ripping out his dreads, taking his chains and watch. While Summers really left the scene unfazed with barely any marks, considering he had 20 goons beating and stomping on him. Homicide would go on to taunt Summers on social media by posting his stolen jewelry, to which Summers would respond to by making social media posts showing himself without any bruises buying a new chain and dropping a diss track titled Check Me Out. This was also supposedly the reason the entire Yeat versus Opium beef started, kind of a domino effect, as Yeat and Summers have been very close since the beginning of their careers. So, with Homicide now beefing Summers, many thought that this is why Opium abruptly cut their ties with Yeat, with Summers even sending shots back more recently at the Opium signees on Yeats' newest project, Lifestyle. As on the track Go to Work, he rapped, "Try to catch his ass at the show." Okay, me. Later, he booked him with Yeast himself and made fun of Homicide Gang's album, I, 5U, 5We, 5, on Instagram by saying, "I style you, style, style, style." It appeared that Ken wasn't just making fun of Ye's friends on this project, but also Ye himself, as he would first say, "You just rap. That ain't your lifestyle, boy. I know that's cap," on track 5, K-Hole. Fans assumed that this was directed at Ye because of the reference to his album Lifestyle, which states that he isn't about that life. He essentially tells Ye to back off and avoid getting involved in any beef because he's not from the street life, which Ye has already been criticized for. He used to act like this thug and always carry guns, but now people mock him because he's changed into a space alien cowboy. In any case, Ken would say, "You were in the lead. How did you let me catch you?" On track 20, Evolution. Which may sound like a throwaway brag at first listen, but if you kind of zoom out and look at it through the lens of Ken and Yeats' career trajectories, it could be a diss. As pretty much throughout the entirety of their careers, Ye has always been ahead, being the first one to land big singles, big albums, a song for the Minions, and even a #1 global hit with Drake. Ye was this golden child of the New Ridge era. Ken, by contrast, was just seen as the little brother or a son of Cardi. He couldn't compete. He was always in the shadow of Ye, really not blowing up till like late 2023, after the release of his third studio album, A Great Chaos. So when Ken says that line, it's him showing off his hard work and longer way to success. And what makes it even better for Ken is that recently, he has been outperforming Ye. Ken's most recent singles overseas and Delusional have been way outstreaming Yeats. For example, Delusional got 1.6 million streams on its first day, while The Bell received just below 1.1 million, and now even albums-wise. While Ken's previous two albums, AGC and More Chaos, sold 50,000 units through streaming without using the merge bundle method like Yeats did, Yeats' Lifestyle sold 89,000 units in its first week, but only 29,000 of those came from actual streaming from platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music. This whole numbers game has caused a lot of tension between the two artists' fan bases on social media, as they are now constantly disparaging or comparing the other artist in their replies. The music video for Yeats' The Bell has eclipsed Ken Carson's Lord of Chaos and is expected to surpass the money spread. The Bell streamed every song on Ken and Carson's M Chaos during their first 2 days, proving that their fans are at war, much like Uzi and Cardi. The pay shots are also a social media. At one point, Ken even DM'd a Ye fan page after they made fun of him for using that H ad lib, which he puts in literally. Ken should be making headlines if Yeah is in 2025. Every song that is kind of crazy, like you're a signed famous rapper now fighting with fan pages, and you know Ken, like he got upset, he sent a full message and then went on to even like a comment trashing Yeats' live performance. But don't worry, this isn't just a one-sided feud. Benny X, one of Yeats' main producers, liked a tweet that said, "Ken's sound is repetitive," basically calling Ken's entire style rinse and repeat. Ken has been under fire lately because, well, More Chaos sounded a lot like A Great Chaos. But I'm not going to get into that in this video, so yeah, it's not just the rappers getting involved, it's their teams, fans, and the producers. Honestly, there have been a lot of subliminal shots from both parties on social media. So I think I'll be making like a huge video about that soon, as the last one I did was in December. I think the bit after Yo's lifestyle, and a lot has happened since then, but this video is, of course, just about the disses on More Chaos. So I want to stay on track on the second track from the album. Exposed fans noticed that Ken was taking more shots at fellow underground rappers. However, they couldn't really decipher who it was, specifically aimed at, "These fellas ain't effing with me. Let's go band for band. You ain't flexing on me. B, you flexing on your fans that meal you made in a year. I made in one day. Go ask my mans." So fans thought these lines could have been either aimed at the retired Can or the up-and-coming Osamson. Some fans thought these lines were aimed at Kanan as before. On his story, he had Flex making $1 million from his clothing brand line Really Rich in the past year, and with the two previously beefing back in 2022, where Ken made fun of Ken for supposedly not having any money and signing for a Dodge Hellcat, whilst Ken was making fun of K for his shows, with this overall just really being Ken. Flexing on K, as in the end he came out on top, ultimately having the more successful career. Then the second person fans thought these lines could be aimed at was Osamson, so not only is a big part of Osama's brand, being this flexer kind of thing, even having an album named Flex Music, but also from his album Jump Out, released in the January of 2025 on the song Logo. He said, "And they used to call me Lil O Hitter Million B, now Ambigo," which kind of fits. What Ken said, he mentions flexing and then references someone making a mill. And it's not like Ken and Osama haven't had issues in the past. In the November of 2023, there was rumors circling around that Ken Carson was telling his producers to not send beats to Osamson. However, in the end, this all turned out to be completely fake, but it still kind of created this narrative of Ken disliking Osama. You know, with him having a very similar sound to Ken, whilst using some of the same producers. Like, even though these were fake, many fans still believed that Ken was trying to kind of blackball and stop this upcoming rapper from succeeding, and Ken would actually respond to these rumors in a set of tweets, which, as usual, he would surely delete after, where I can't really tell who he's talking about. He's obviously having a go at people making the fake rumors, but in the final tweet where he says, "I don't know them fellas, I'm not sure if that's him trying to belittle anyways." Fast forward to More Chaos. Right before the album's release, fans would once again create more fake news surrounding Lil O and Ken, as this fake screenshot of Osama calling Ken a clone and telling them to leak his album would start making the rounds on social media again. Even this was all fake, it was trending, and people believed it. It still started this Osama versus Ken Carson war on the timeline, with some fans genuinely writing posts online saying both artists were stealing each other's producers, and so on. And this is where it just kind of gets hilarious. Like, these underground kind of fans treating producers like they're Pokemon cards. If Kane uses a beat from Rocker Legion, then Osama can't touch him, or it's stealing. But in reality, these producers are just sending out the same packs to half the scene. They're just trying to make money and eat. It's really not that deep as fans are making it out to be. But when people see two artists with even slightly similar sounds using the same producer, and then they start beefing, suddenly it's, oh, Ken is blackballing him, or Osama is copying Ken Carson. And honestly, it's kind of worked for Osama, as it's like kind of how he blew up one of his songs, X and Sex Sounds. Exactly like a Ken song, and used to be one of Osamson's biggest songs now. If this disc is actually aimed at Osamson from Ken's album, I actually kind of feel bad because I'm pretty sure like he looks up to Cardi and Ken. He obviously used that Cardi bedroom photo shoot as the inspiration for his debut tape. Got the inspiration from Jump Out from Cart's leak. You can do it too. With Funny Enough Ken, even liking a tweet where a fan said Osama took inspiration from Cardi's, you can do it too. Again, this kind of like sly shot, or Ken acknowledging Osama is a fan of them. It's really weird, like Ken's like 25, like 20, like 21, but you're like, yeah, just bro, chill. Osama is an awkward rapper, leave him alone. You actually, and I'm getting off topic, but bro, Osama has the worst fans literally every week. His music's leaking, his tape is leaking. Everyone's cooking him. It's actually really bad. But it did actually get worse for Osama on More Chaos. As on Exposed, Ken also said, "This don't bother me. Feel has been stealing swag all my life," which could have been potentially a response to Osama and the producer situation, especially with the stealing swag thing, as many people have called Osama a Ken Carson clone in the past. So here Ken is just acknowledging Lil O is copying him, but he's used to it. And fans even found more lines, which could have been aimed at Osamson on Kole. Ken said, "If you complain about how I make these hits, then fella, make one again." Since Ken and Osama have had problems in the past, and Ken always brags about the money his brand makes, we'll never know if this was a reaction to the leaked screenshots or these fake leaked screenshots of Osama stealing Ken's producers. However, I'm not sure if it was directed at Osama or Ken, because their entire beef is kind of fake and forced by fan pages that just stir up random drama and beef. They'll create a fake screenshot, put a crazy caption, and boom, Ken Carson is calling out Osama, or Osama said something about Ken. I'm fairly certain that Ken and Osama have never even spoken, but somehow the fans have turned it into a full-on Twitter war, which is somewhat advantageous for Osama because it generates buzz and likes for his name. Ken would say, "All my ops some hoes, all my ops getting exposed," which may have been a jab at the disgraced Atlanta rapper 24. There will be another line in the song revealed. On December 30th, 2024, Left Eye would be exposed on Twitter for possessing a plastic sausage and generally not being straight. Left Eye was associated with the Atlanta gang's henchmen, along with Benji Bluebills and Oleron, who naturally have long-standing feuds with Ken's label owner, Playboy Cardi, because they are all connected to the murder and the henchmen's rivals. This led to Benji Bluebills revoking his henchman membership, and of course, him just becoming the laughingstock of the underground community. Shortly after this expose, Left Eye would be caught by another person on Instagram Live, trying to commit, with 21 Savage joining the live and commenting. Left Eye said, "Bring him a D, and he will get down with Ken," overall throwing many jabs at his quote-unquote ops on this project, mostly saying that internet trolls are not really about that life. Even though Ken himself, Cardi, and Destroy Lonely aren't about that life either, it's common to see rappers get rich and then pretend they're from the streets. I mean, Cardi is literally the prime example with that, really summarizing the disses on More Chaos. Overall, not too many, but I don't think Ken has ever really used his music to this or send shots. I think like Teen Bean is the only notable disc song which has lines aimed at. Then the only other one I can think of is on MDMA, when he said you should have signed to Opium Little Boy, now you slaving, which could have been aimed at either Young K or So FGO. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments if I missed any out, or if you saw any diseases that could have meant something on More Chaos. In more recent Ken Carson news, he even dissed Ye in DMs with Trippie Redd after he had posted claiming he invented the rage sound. But yeah, that's it anyways. Hope you guys enjoyed. Sub, comment, have a great day. Check out domakaski.com for some sick